Hi, welcome back to a new episode. And finally I get to make a video about a new car. Regretfully, these days it's rare that something comes out that makes me want to even do a deep dive review, but boy, has this one got me inspired. So today I'm going to review the spiritual successor of a car that flabbergasted me the first time I saw it as a young kid, and that still knocks my socks off to this day. That car was the Mercedes-Benz C111. It was introduced in 1969 and it continued as an experimental prototype into the 70s. It was never sold, never made it into public hands, probably because it didn't fit Mercedes-Benz's strong reputation for quality and reliability. But still, for me at least, is a timeless design. Hard to pinpoint its age even today. It was Mercedes-Benz's testbed for new rotary engine tech, and it had some performance features that were pretty innovative at the time as well. It had a beautiful wedge profile with a mid-engine layout, had an abruptly cut off a rear end that gave it a great coefficient of drag, didn't have any wings, didn't have a ducktail spoiler, none of that stuff. It was a very strong but very simple front-end graphic with those amazing pop-up headlights, blister-type swirls over the front fender, had those amazing gold-wing doors that gave it immediate supercar status. It probably influenced even the door design of the Lamborghini Countach, which came a bit later. Another detail that makes it so stunning, in my opinion, is that innovative flying buttress design of the C-pillar. It's a great feature that regrettably, we don't see it often enough. Overall, I would say this car is one of the top bedroom supercar posters of that generation. Hard to imagine that car never actually made it into the public domain. That car was something to make people drool after, so much so that people were writing blank checks for the car. But Mercedes-Benz decided not to build it, so that was it until recently. Now, the reason why I'm giving you all this historical context is so that you can see what an awesome job Mercedes-Benz has done bringing this car back to life. The Vision 111, Mercedes-Benz's reimagined version of the iconic original, doing its very best to pick up on the C111's DNA and to pay a respectable design homage to it. Does it do it convincingly, or does it work? Well, in my opinion, it really does. It's not 100% perfect, but it's darn close. Has an amazing exterior design by Matthias Schenker that really took my breath away when I first saw it, much like the original did when I was a child. So in the case of first impressions, it is certainly holding its own against the original. Obviously, it's not a street legal production car, but that's not the point of a cutting-edge concept design. As Mercedes-Benz's design director, Gordon Wagner, says, proportion is king. The vehicle has an electric motor inside each wheel hub that's given Herr Schenker complete freedom to shape the car around the passengers. Gosh, has he done it well. And now I want to take you through a few of the design details that I really like on this car, and for that I'm going to need a prop. Now, starting with that all-important first view, the one that grabs your attention the most, the front three-quarter, you can see the immediate resemblance, immediate connection with the original C111. Now, the Vision 111 has almost what we would call a one-box profile. From the front to the back, it's a one single volume, pretty much from here, consistently over, down, and through there. That is one single line done extremely well, very fluid. You can see that the original one has almost an origami, sort of very hard-edged, angular design to it. There are a lot of things on here that are lacking, let's call them substantial curvatures or radiuses. This one, the Vision 1.1, you can start to see how, for example, from the front through the fenders up through there, that amount of curvature is quite new in today's design, because we're moving a lot towards these very hard-edged, very aggressive-looking designs. And it's a real welcome to come back to this type of design. Really nice to see it done in a very almost sensual manner, very organic, as I said. They've managed to capture, in this area here especially, that same graphic from the original. You can see the very dominant fog lamps, 2 of them, right here, right here. Although it's done in a very pixelated manner, much like the video games from the 80s, it does communicate something very strong with this new interpretation here. You can also see the light ring that surrounds that graphic, very punchy, very strong. And as we move back, you start to see another very similar treatment here on the air outlets that come in, taking the hot air out of the radiators, done very well. And that line flowing straight into then the canopy area through here and through here. Now, what is interesting through here is that it's one single surface with hardly any breaks at all. You have the window break right through here, and regretfully it misaligned slightly with the door shut line. But the door shut line I love because it really does emphasize that strong amount of curvature that they've been able to put in the side section through here. Whereas on the original, it has almost a very angular feel to it. This one comes across much more modern now, much more in the same vein, but a little bit more sexy, let's call it. Now let's go back slightly, and I want to show one more point that's very well treated. It's a small detail, but very effective. They've managed to put in the intakes, the 3 very typical intakes that you see on the second gen of the C101 right here, into this small area here. It's very effective, gives it a bit more of a bite, a bit more of a shark gill type feeling, where it's very well settled, but still there. As we move rearwards, we start to see a new interpretation of the wheel design. The original was a 5-spoke, not super exciting, just very effective. Whereas now we're moving on to something that looks a little bit more aero efficient, a bit more of a turbine type fan effect. And you can see that really does give you a lot of interest in that area. They haven't forgot about the wheel design. It's quite important, and they've really emphasized it and really done it really nicely. Then as we start to move towards the side section of the car, you'll see it later in some other views, of course, but in this view, it's quite obvious that they've managed to give it almost a barrel type section to the side of the car. Very beautiful, very sensual, very voluptuous, because you can start to see that it works very well to break up the visual weight of the side, giving you a bit of a darker area here, and then of course a much lighter looking area above this area here. Now if I clean that up briefly, you'll start to see something else that's quite interesting. You don't immediately see any break between the glass and the body. You can almost see like it's flowing from the body color into the glass of the canopy. What's actually happening is we have something called the obscuration area, which is typically hiding, or it's a black frame around the glass that distinguishes the body and the glass. But here they've been able to pixelate it in a very nicely done way, almost a parametric type feel to it, where the dots just progressively start to evaporate almost, and to have a bit of glass area obviously in the center here. But it gives you that feeling almost of a continuation of the body color and flowing into the glass. Really nicely done, something that I think we'll be seeing much more of in the future as soon as we find a way to actually make it not hinder the visual needs of the driver. Now let's move to the side view where other things will become more apparent. Now looking at the car from the side view, we can start to appreciate other small details that give it that similar feeling, that DNA that we call of the original C101. Namely, the very first thing on the front is this almost leaning forward of the front section in this area here. Very well done, as it's done on the original. Then you can also start to appreciate that center line that goes all the way from the front to the back of the car. One single clean line, and then the flow is interrupted on the sides by two beautifully sculpted wheel wells that give it sort of a interruption, but a beautiful interruption. Minimal distance over the wheels to the height that is actually centered at the high point over the axles of the wheels. The only other thing that I would say perhaps is that the glass line here and the door line here don't align. It's not a big issue, but wouldn't it be nice if basically they did a line, was one line, it would be a continuous flow around the car, much as the intake on the side is, where it kind of wraps around the car all the way over to the other side, and you have your intakes in this area here as well as on the roof. One thing I'm not a huge fan of are the blue lights through here. I guess it's just to signify that it's an electric car. Blue lights, okay, a little bit gimmicky. As a concept car, you can accept it. It's fine. Beautiful sculpting detail here on the part that comes away from the body and connects with the rocker panel area, the wing. Beautifully sculpted, very much like a wing. And then you also have this area here, which is dark, much like on the rocker, the sill panel. On the original, you can see it goes all the way around the underside of the car. Your diffuser also in dark. So clearing it all off so that we can get a nice clean view of the side view is that it works very well. This is a very, very well balanced, very well proportioned car. It's so easy to make a single volume design a bit boring, but again, with that flourish of design details here, they've really given it some excitement, some interesting innovation to some of those features on it, and I think it holds itself very well together. My only complaint, especially on the side view, is that it lacks that one item that makes the C11 really stand out for me, which is that flying buttress on the rear area here. And if this car had it, I think it would be 100% in terms of design. So now let's take a look at this beautiful sculpture from a 3/4 rear view. Now, from the rear 3/4 view, you can really start to appreciate some of the details that can relate or absolutely show that connection of DNA to the original. And one of those is that simple graphic we have in the back, just a black filling area here with the two round taillights. And again, they've captured that through here, again, with the pixelated round taillights that can, even if you would like to write something in there, have it pixelated within that graphic there, you could do that. Wouldn't recommend it. But if we look down here at the diffuser, you can see that this is probably one of the most, not sure if it's effective, but one of the most beautiful diffusers out there. None of the typical wings that we usually put into a diffuser, but rather something, just a very clean profile going through there. Works very well. We don't want a heavy rear bumper underneath, but it's done in such a way that when you look at it from the rear, you'll see a lot of light, a lot of airflow coming out through there. And then one more stunning detail that I mentioned when we spoke about the C11, it doesn't have any aero features, no additional wings on it. But in this day and age where we do know the benefits of aero and keeping the rear end glued to the ground, they've actually been able to put in a flush-fitting rear wing to the vehicle, to the design here. And you can see that that part right there at speed will lift up and work as a spoiler to give you more downforce on the rear end of the car. Perhaps one of the good things also from a rear 3/4 view is to be able to appreciate that voluptuousness that we spoke about before through here. And you can almost start to tell that from this volume here, it's a whole nother design language currently, I guess, for Mercedes-Benz. They're not really doing cars like this in their lineup, but it does show you that the past influence of design can be updated and in a way that looks super modern and super timeless, much like here on the Vision 111. So in conclusion, this Mercedes-Benz Vision 111 is the perfect successor of a classic groundbreaker. Much like the original, it instantly commands your attention, it seizes your breath, and it doesn't get boring no matter how long you've been staring at it. I've been lusting after the original for over half a century, and if I've got another 50 years left in me, I don't think I'll ever get bored of this one either. On the whole, though, my only feedback is build it now. Make it real. There you have it. Thanks so much for watching. I certainly enjoyed making this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Is this a worthwhile successor to the iconic C11, or is it not? Let me know in the comments below. As always, see you in the next episode.